Hello everybody, our paper is titled as Investigating Near-Miss Microclones in Evolving Software. We are four authors in this paper. I am Manishankar Mondal. I am a postdoctoral fellow in the Computer Science Department of the University of Saskatchewan. The other three authors in this paper are Dr. Bharani Roy, Dr. Chanchal K. Roy, and Dr. Kevin A. Snyder. In our research, we investigate very small code clones residing in a software system's code base. Such code clones have been called microclones in the literature. In particular, we investigate consistent updates in near-miss microclones in software systems. I will first go through some background topics. Code clones. Code clones are the exactly or nearly similar code fragments in a software system's code base disregarding the comments and indentations. There can be four different types of code clones. These are type 1 clones, type 2, type 3, and type 4 clones. Now let's see an example of type 1 clone fragments. This slide contains two code fragments. In the right hand side fragment, there is a comment. If we disregard this comment, then these two code fragments become exactly the same. So they are type 1 clone fragments. There can be examples of other three clone types. However, we are not going through all those examples. If we consider the size of the code clones, we can categorize code clones into two categories: regular code clones and micro clones. In the case of regular code clones, the minimum size threshold is 5 log and the maximum size threshold is 20,000 log. In the case of microclones, the minimum and maximum size thresholds are on log and 4 log respectively. We realize that the maximum size of a microclone fragment should be smaller than the minimum size of a regular clone fragment. In our research, the microclones that are not exactly the same have been called near-miss microclones. We investigate consistent updates in near-miss microclones using dice coefficient. This slide shows an example of consistent updates in near-miss microclones. We can see two code fragments here, code fragment 1 and code fragment 2. If we look at the code fragments, we realize that they cannot be clones of each other because the lines in these two code fragments are not syntactically similar. We now look at the changes that occurred in these two code fragments. The line that was changed in each code fragment has been highlighted in blue. The two highlighted lines in the two code fragments have been considered as single-line microclones in our research. The dice coefficient for these two lines is higher than 70%. If we also look at the changes, we realize that the changes are consistent. Thus, consistent updates can occur in near-miss microclones during software evolution. A number of studies have been conducted on microclones. The first ever study was published in ICPC 2015 on the last line effect. The second study was published in ICPC 2016 on microclone attacks. In SENA 2018, there was a study on the consistent updates in exact microclones. In ICPC 2019, there was a study on the bifurcation in regular and microclones. Also, in SENA 2020, there was a study on the change impact analysis through analyzing both regular and microclones. We see that a number of studies have been conducted on microclones. However, none of these studies have investigated consistent updates in near-miss microclones. Such an investigation is important. If we do not investigate the consistent updates in near-miss microclones, we cannot realize their real impacts on software maintenance and evolution. In our research, we also compare the consistent updates in three categories of code clones. These are regular code clones, exact microclones, and near-miss microclones. Without such a comparison, we cannot realize their comparative impacts on software maintenance. This slide shows how we detect consistent updates in near-miss microclones. Let's say we have two changes, change 1 and change 2. We first determine whether the changes are of the same type. We detect changes using Unix git tool. This tool outputs three types of changes: additions, deletions, and modifications. We determine whether change 1 and change 2 both are additions, deletions, or modifications. If the changes are of the same type, we determine if the fragments that were changed are similar. We detect similarity between the fragments using dice coefficient. If the fragments that were changed are similar, we determine whether the changes occurred in regular code clones. If the changes did not occur in regular code clones, then we determine if those occurred in exact microclones. If each of the fragments that were changed contains less than 5 blocks and the fragments are exactly the same, we realize that the changes occurred in exact microclones. If the changes did not occur in exact microclones, then we determine whether they occurred in nearest microclones. If each of the fragments that were changed contains less than 5 blocks and the fragments are not exactly the same, we consider that the changes occurred in nearest microclones. In our research, we answered 4 research questions. Our first question is about the percentage of consistent updates in regular code clones, exact microclones, and in nearest microclones. Our second research question is about the bugfulness in these 3 categories of code clones. In our third research question, we investigate the offenness of consistent updates in these 3 clone categories. And finally, we investigate the proximity of consistent updates in nearest microclones. In our research, we investigate 6 subject systems which have been implemented in 2 programming languages, C and Java. We detect regular code clones of at least 5 blocks using the well-known naked clone detector. We detect changes using Unix deep tool, and we analyze the consistent updates using dash coefficient. This slide shows the subject systems that we have investigated in our research. The first 2 systems, CTEX and Camellia, have been implemented in C, and the remaining systems have been implemented in Java. We can also see the application domains, sizes, and divisions of these subject systems. Now the experimental steps. Let's say we have a subject system. We first download all the revisions of the system from the online repository. We then detect the changes between every 2 consecutive revisions using Unix deep tool. We detect the regular code clones from each of the revisions of this subject system using the naked clone detector. We then detect the consistent updates using dice coefficient. We analyze these consistent updates to determine which updates occurred in regular code clones, which updates occurred in exact microclones, and which ones in nearest microclones. We then detect the bugfix commit operations from the entire evolutionary history of our subject system. And we finally determine which consistent updates occurred in which of the bugfix commit operations. Now we answer our first research question, which is regarding the percentage of consistent updates in regular code clones, exact microclones, and in nearest microclones. For answering RQ1, we first identify the consistent updates from the entire evolutionary history of our subject systems. And then we categorize these updates into 3 categories. That means the updates in regular code clones, in exact microclones, and in nearest microclones. We obtain this graph from our investigation, which contains 3 percentages. The percentage of consistent update pairs in regular code clones, in exact microclones, and in nearest microclones. We see that for 5 out of 6 subject systems, the percentage regarding nearest microclones is the highest. For the remaining subject system Carol, the percentage regarding regular code clones is the highest. We also conduct Wilcoxon Scientific test to determine if the percentages regarding nearest microclones are significantly different than the percentages regarding regular code clones and exact microclones. And we find that the percentages regarding nearest microclones are significantly higher than the other 2 percentages. From RQ1, we realize that the percentage of consistent updates experienced by nearest microclones is significantly higher compared to the regular code clones and exact microclones. Now we answer our second research question regarding the bugfulness of the 3 categories of code clones. So the question is, what percentage of the consistent updates in different categories of code clones are related to fixing bugs? For answering this question, we first identify the consistent updates in 3 clone categories, and then we identify the bugfix commit operations from the entire evolutionary history of our subject systems. And finally, we identify which of the consistent updates occurred in which bugfix commit operations. From our investigation, we obtain this graph which contains 3 percentages. The percentage of consistent update pairs related to fixing bugs in regular code clones, in exact microclones, and in near-miss microclones. We see that for three subject systems, CTEX, Triple, and Jabreth, the percentage regarding near-miss microclones is the highest. For only one subject system, Carol, the percentage regarding exact microclones is the highest. And for the remaining two systems, Camellia and JEdit, the percentage regarding regular code clones is the highest. From RQ2, we realize that the percentage of consistent update pairs that are related with fixing bugs in near-miss microclones can sometimes be very high. For our subsystem Trickle, this percentage is near 66%. Now we answer our third research question, which is regarding the openness of the consistent updates in regular code clones, exact microclones, and in near-miss microclones. So the question is, how often do near-miss microclones experience consistent updates? For answering RQ3, we first identify all the commit operations where there are some changes to the source code. And then we identify which of the consistent updates occurred in which commit operations. We obtain this graph from our investigation, which contains three percentages. The percentage of consistent updates, the percentage of commits where regular code clones experienced consistent updates, the percentage of commits where exact microclones or near-miss microclones experience consistent updates. We see that for each of the six subject systems, the percentage regarding near-miss microclones is the highest. From RQ3, we realize that near-miss microclones experience consistent updates for a significantly higher percentage of commit operations during the entire period of evolution compared to regular code clones and exact microclones. We finally answer our fourth research question, which is regarding the proximity of the consistent updates in near-miss microclones. So the question is, do near-miss microclones staying in the same file have a higher tendency of experiencing consistent updates compared to those staying in different files? For answering RQ4, we first identify the consistent updates in near-miss microclones, and then we categorize these updates into two categories. In the first category, we select those consistent update pairs where the two updates in each pair occur in the same file. And in the second category, we consider those consistent update pairs where the two updates in each pair occurred in two different files. We obtain this graph from our investigation. It shows two percentages. The percentage of consistent update pairs where the two updates in each pair occurred in the same file or in two different files. We see that for 5 out of 6 subject systems, the first percentage is higher than the second percentage. However, for our subsystem Trickle, the scenario is different. From RQ4, we realize that near-miss microclones residing in the same file have a higher tendency of experiencing consistent updates compared to such code clones residing in different files. In summary, we have answered 4 research questions to establish the importance of near-miss microclones in software evolution and maintenance. Our first question is about the percentage of consistent updates in regular code clones, exact microclones, and in near-miss microclones. Our second research question is about the bugfulness of these three categories of code clones. In our third research question, we investigate the openness of the consistent updates in three categories of code clones. And finally, in our fourth research question, we investigate the proximity of the consistent updates in near-miss microclones. We believe that the near-miss microclones should also be managed with similar importance like regular code clones and exact microclones during software evolution and maintenance. And thanks for your attention.